I got diarrhea, and I got, I'm lazy in the morning. Nobody gives a crap, okay? And I just say I'm fine and move on, okay? So there's that part of it, when you say, how are you, okay? But in reality, if you did a self-assessment of your state of wellness, what would you be looking at? That's the question. Yeah.
So like you're saying, you can have a healthy human being, but that human being could be depressed, therefore their
Right.
wellness would be
Very good.
depressed.
So you're looking at, you're kind of philosophically adding facets to the human being. You're now treating the human being as a human being, not as a science experiment. So you're getting into a more of a, sort of a layperson, interpersonal type of, healthy discussion, inventory. So obviously the physical comes to mind, which is, are you in a state of, physical health? Are you eating well? Is everything good? Is everything right? But then there's also emotional, are you a wreck all the time? Are you suspicious of everybody? Are you paranoid? Are you fearful? Is that making your life miserable? Do you have an undiagnosed medical problem that could have been helped, like bipolar? Okay, these are all emotional, mental issues. There's also the intellectual. So if you are educated, now I don't mean to give you all swell heads, but just the fact that you are in college, and we're having this discussion, and you understand what we're saying, you're already in the top 5 to 10% of the population in this country, okay? That means your mind and your way of thinking is head and shoulders above most of the population of the world, right? So, that's a good thing. And now it is your social responsibility to only get better, so that maybe you can make a difference in the world. Because there's a lot of other people, a hell of a lot more than us, that don't really have even an understanding or awareness of what we're talking about. There's also, of course, interpersonal. So, it's like the old, story about, the guy comes into the doctor, the psychologist, and he says, "Doctor, I'm a total mess. Nobody loves me. I'm lonely. My ex-wife is gone now. My friends all stay away from me, and I just can't seem to really, keep a relationship. So, can you help me, you bastard? Yeah, okay. I mean, let's face it. You're just being nasty. Okay. I mean, it's not short of any other medical issues like Tourette's or something like that. You just insulted the hell out of this guy in the same breath that you were asking them to help you, okay? So your interpersonal skills are very important, okay? How you relate to people are very important. And as part of that is you're cultivating relationships. And they don't have to be all, sort of Valentine's Day style relationships. They can be just, relationship with a friend, relationship with a colleague, relationship with a teacher, relationship with a fellow student. These are all things that are part of your overall package of what makes you well. Okay? How you work with your parents, siblings, that's good. There's also the whole spiritual thing. We don't put as much emphasis on it or have in the past, because at one time spiritual just simply meant you belong to a religion. And if you didn't, then, well, you were eating for that religion. That was the end of it, okay? Well, we know that it is possible to be spiritual and not necessarily be locked in to any one religious order, I mean, Karl Marx called religion opium of the masses. Now, I'm not a big fan of Karl Marx, but there's something to be said about that, in the sense that there are people who need that help. They need direction. Well, for them, if it works, great. Who am I to criticize what they do and what they need, as long as it makes them a better person, or they believe they'll be a better person. But that whole spiritual concept is opened up now in a very more accepting way, that if you have a relationship with whether it's God or Gaia or just, Mother Earth, or your relationship with, Zeus himself, because you were influenced from that that lightning thief movie, I mean, it doesn't really matter to me, okay, as long as you're a better person for it. Environmental changes. Certainly, environmental is a factor, because on a few different bases. Like, I know in your book it even says they're trying to add another category called occupational. But I link occupational as part of environmental, because what happens around you when you are behaving in your micro cosm of your micro community, okay? So like right now, you're in a micro community with your classmates, your teacher, and maybe the administrator, you're at school. So how do you relate in that environment? Do you find people helpful? Do you find that you're liked? Do you find that if you needed some help, you'd get the support? Or it feels like you're alone and you're all by yourself? Those things can impact you, not just in a state of what you would just label as wellness, eventually it can even impact some aspect of health. Okay. Certainly if you're in a lab where there's asbestos particles falling off the ceiling, that's a more obvious environmental issue. Okay? So that's why we put such emphasis these days on architecture and home construction and building constructions. You've heard of the concept of the sick building. There are a lot of these big buildings